Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am, of course, not Stan. I am Kim Haven, but I'm also, redoing my living room, which is why I'm off camera because it's a mess, just so you know. But welcome to the actual May Unlock Higher Ed meeting. I'm glad to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to, I guess, begin. I want to be very mindful of people's time, but the fact that our group is kind of small, I want to give us some time and some space to really get to know each other a little bit deeper than we normally have the opportunity to, and to also turn it over to Dr. Belinda Wheeler to talk a little further about what the steering committee is thinking about with regard to our Pell restoration work, and then certainly to Jay Holder to talk about the work of some of the other committees. So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to ask the steering committee, so Dr. Wheeler and Jay, to introduce themselves, and then Harry for the administration piece, and then we'll just kind of popcorn style from there, if that's okay. So Dr. Wheeler.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, sorry. I'm Belinda Wheeler. Apologies for not being on camera. I hurt my shoulder yesterday and I'm in immense pain. So I'm just kind of trying to help in with this conversation today. But yes, I'm a member of the steering committee with Unlocking Higher Ed. My official role outside of, Unlocking Higher Ed is a senior program associate at the Vera Institute of Justice, where we're doing work with technical assistance for second chance Pell sites. And then prior to that, I was working with my brother, Jay Holder, who's also on this call, and he's going to introduce himself as well. I was located in South Carolina as a faculty member at Claflin University and HBCU in Orangeburg, South Carolina. And with Jay's support, with his nonprofit Healthy Routines, we were able to start a Pathways from Prison program where students who are currently incarcerated within the state of South Carolina with DOC can continue or start their educational journey to get a baccalaureate through Claflin University. So that's just a little bit about myself. I'll turn it over to Jay so that he can just share a little bit more about him, and then we can talk a little bit more as a group about like the steering committee and stuff like that, if that's okay.
Hello, everyone. And the reason why I got my camera off is I'm connected to my phone as a hotspot, and when I turn the video on, it seems to not have enough good connection to be able to display both audio, and so I figure you guys would probably like to hear my voice better than to see my face. So we're going to go with that again. So since she talked about some of the work that I've done in South Carolina, I'll talk about what the other hat that I wear, other than being a part of the Unlock Higher Ed steering committee. I'm also the director of the National Executive Council at Columbia University, and it's an entity that's consisted of educators, researchers, and conflict resolution practitioners from the university. And we partner up with different executives from nonprofits, government agencies, and we create policies and different initiatives around how to address poverty. And when we focus on poverty, because we know that the system's response to poverty with regards to Black and Brown communities is criminalization and incarceration. So we have about 12 different initiatives around the country. One of the main initiatives, again, is offering college degrees and helping universities get inside that space. So we have programs in Georgia, South Carolina, DC, Maryland, et cetera, New York, et cetera, as well. And I'm just glad to be here. We're probably light today because we always meet at the same time, every month, because of the holiday, it throws us off. But the great thing is those who are here probably gets an opportunity to just learn a little more about each other's work and how we can help each other, individually within our organizations, but as Unlock Higher Ed Coalition as well.
That's great. Thank you, Jay. Harry, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, actually, I'll try to turn my video on. Okay. Hi. I'm back home with my family, and here's a cat up here. So I just finished my master's in public health at Johns Hopkins, which is when I got involved with P2P. So I was a policy intern with them during my last term this spring, and through that I got involved as the administrator or administrative assistant for Unlock Higher Ed. So I've been the one that's been sending lots of emails to you guys with meeting minutes or meeting reminders. So I am much newer to a lot of this than I think most of you, but it has been a lot of fun the past few months, and it's been nice to slowly get to know everyone and get involved.
Terrific. Thank you. Would love to be able to go around the room, and I hate calling on people, but I am going to call on someone first, and then just sort of popcorn it so that we can learn a little bit more about you, what brings you to Unlock Higher Ed, and also the work that you are doing and the organization. It's a great opportunity for us to learn about you and the work of your organization. So I'm just going to pop it off to Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Snow. I am a communications associate for P2P. I also do a little bit of comms work with the Education Justice Project in Illinois, and I am an intern at the JEEP initiative this summer through the Oregon Social Learning Center. I am here for P2P. I am passionate about higher education opportunities for those who are currently informally incarcerated, and I'm very excited to be here. I'll go ahead and popcorn Judith.
Hi, everybody. I'm Judith Negron. I am in Miami, Florida. Actually, I'm kind of in a transition right now, so that's why I didn't have my video on. Excuse that. But anyways, I am a P2P scholar, mentor, and part of the Speakers Bureau, so I'm excited about that. Also, the Ladies of Hope Ministry ambassador for the state of Florida. And my passion is to advocate for these individuals that are coming home and reentry process, and how education is important, not only on the inside, but also on the outside. It's a continuum spectrum that needs to happen, especially in technology. That's been a major, major deficit. But I also am the founder for the Freedom Blow, which is a reentry program that I'm hoping to expand and incorporate the educational component into these reentry services. And I'll pass it on to Jonathan.
Thanks, Judith. So I'm Jonathan Bleiweiss. I'm the founder and executive director of Florida Justice Center. We're a legal aid organization in Florida, helping people get their rights back after being involved in the justice system. I have a grant to pursue some ban the box and higher education initiatives in Florida. So I'm working on that currently. And I'm a Just Leadership USA Leading with Conviction Fellow for this cohort now, formerly incarcerated person, and love what you're doing here and just want to help do my part. And I will pass it off to Daisy.
Good afternoon. I'm Daisy Hicks. I work part-time for the Department of Corrections here in Virginia. I work as their college liaison to help create college programs for incarcerated students at the facilities here in Virginia. And I guess I'll popcorn it to Sheila.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sheila Myman. I'm in the state of New Jersey. I operate a HEP program statewide that offers an AA and liberal arts via Raritan Valley Community College. Been doing it for about 12 years, working inside. And I don't know who's left. Did Shannon go?
I think we had Shannon and maybe Mr. Johnson, Odell Johnson was.
Odell, your camera's on. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So hello everyone. Wow, this is really a great opportunity to come and work in this capacity or be a part of a membership or a platform that people are listening to. So I really commend Dr. Stanley Idris. I am a psychologist who have been just as impacted, and it's been really hard for me to even say that. I just want to share kind of a little bit about that story. So my incarceration experience happened in the 90s. And so when I was released from prison in 2000, it was just very difficult to talk about that because it was so brutal in the sense that there was no justice, there was no advocacy, crime was punishment, and that's all crime was. There was no rehabilitation, and despite the fact that the state and Department of Corrections was spending money for so-called rehabilitation, it was not a comprehensive approach to rehabilitation. And so once you have that experience back then in the 90s, coming right off the war on drugs and marginalized communities, it was very difficult to find support services. And the whole goal I felt, and also what I experienced, was that it was kind of orchestrated for people to fail. Fortunately, I was not one of those people that failed to ever go back. And so, because I empowered myself by getting my education, every program that was offered in that system, regardless, I had my high school diploma, but I actually went to high school GED classes just to get back into the mode of learning again, even though I was already achieved that. And so coming out, it was like if you told someone that you were incarcerated, then you probably wouldn't get the job. It would have to be more, it was more of a, you had to have a relationship with someone that could probably possibly help you get a job. And it was just really brutal. And so I'm just really, I get kind of emotional about it because I'm just really, in the last 10 years, I have seen a definite shift. A lot of advocacy has started. And I wish that was there for me when I got out. But anyway, so I am, I'm a psychologist. I'm a research psychologist and focused now. I collaborated and worked together with Dr. Zoller at the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences, which is where I am now. Previously, I was in San Francisco, working in some deep trenches in regards to criminal justice reform. And now I like to call it criminal justice transformation. The entity that we started under the University of Arkansas was called the Southern Public Health and Criminal Justice Research Center. Also, I have another research entity that I started prior, which is called Research Institute for Social Equity. And our goal is to conduct and analyze rigorous research that informs the use of evidence-based practices to reduce mass incarceration. That's just one of the things that I do. But so I'm involved in health disparities. I'm involved in COVID-19 as it relates to people that are incarcerated and those that are coming out, those that are marginalized, hard to reach places. I'm a professor in criminal justice and psychology and community psychology and health and ethics and healthcare. And so, so I'm here now and I'm very transparent. I want to be transparent in this process so I can bring the best of myself. I'm looking at the whole collective 25 years since my experience with incarceration, bring it to this type of setting and hopefully help us come up with some plans and some approaches that's going to be able to strengthen those individuals that are involved in the P2P program.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. Shannon, are you able to join us yet? Or if not, we can certainly, move on and come back to you when you can talk. All right, we're going to move forward. So I want to just you've got a couple of members of the steering committee. We started off by introducing ourselves. I briefly said who I was. I am Kim Haven. I am the administrator for Unlock Higher Ed, but I'm also the policy lead for From Prison Cells to PhD. I'm also the only formerly incarcerated individual in Maryland who's written policy that's gotten passed into law. And as of this year, I've now done it 5 times. So yay. I love it when I see my brothers and sisters changing and challenging the system through policy and legislative advocacy. Thank you, Dr. Wheeler. No, but I love creating pathways for others to do it because policy is my jam. and Unlock Higher Ed, I've been involved with Unlock Higher Ed for a couple of years now, and our steering committee has kind of evolved. You can certainly find out more about our steering committee on our website, but we've been hard at work with looking at sort of like the past and Ban the Box and all the work that we did. And certainly, Jonathan, we stand as a resource for you in any way that we can help you with the work that you're doing in Florida. I know that you said you're already working with some of us, but the entire team is ready, stands at the ready. You just need to reach out to us. Harry and I are working on the website now to also make it much more inclusive and updated in terms of opportunities. So shameless plug here, if any of you know of any positions or volunteer opportunities that you would like us to share, either on the website or through the listserv, you can send it to Harry and I. We're happy to promote that. We are actively looking for volunteers. And when I say volunteers, we're looking for interns specifically to Unlock Higher Ed. If you have a certain skill set within social media or any other kind of advocacy work or policy work, if someone wants to get involved in policy, we're crafting that those opportunities now, and those should be posting before our next meeting, which will be at the end of June. We'll be back on schedule. And so we've been now looking at Pell, and Pell is going to be the big thing, as it should be. And we're aggressively trying to work to make sure that our voices are at the head, that we're the ones, we are the trusted messengers. We are the ones that can lead the conversation around language. And I'm going to ask Jay to actually touch on language because that is something that is very important to us, but also in how the message gets into the institutions, and also how we can work with corrections, how we can work with higher education, how we can work with universities, but how we can work with the Department of Education. And that's where I'm going to ask Dr. Wheeler to tell us more about the amazing work that Vera has done in a letter that they have sent that multiple organizations have signed on. So I'm going to stop for a real quick second, and I'm going to ask Dr. Wheeler to talk about the Vera letter, and certainly the work that we're anticipating getting involved with and where we need to be moving forward as it relates to Pell.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for that, Kim. Yeah, so one of the ways that we, at Vera are trying to help with this work, there's a lot of different ways that Vera as an organization is trying to do that work, but with Unlocking Potential, which is the area within Vera of which I'm a part, we recently wrote a letter in response to the Department of Education for a new, it's called, and I'll use it in air quotes because I like to use person first language, but Department of Education and others sometimes don't do that. So it's the FAFSA for incarcerated students, FAFSA. So the Department of Ed is floating the idea of, based on the experience with the Second Chance Pell programming, the first round, the second round, and the recently announced third round earlier this year, was that students who are currently incarcerated who are trying to complete a quote unquote traditional FAFSA have hit multiple roadblocks as they've tried to do that. So as a way to try to, make things a little bit more streamlined and a little bit easier for students who are currently incarcerated, is that they wanted to create a quote unquote FAFSA incarcerated student application. So as with the Vera team, when we were looking through that document, we noticed that there were numerous kind of concerns that we had, for this very important population, where it seemed like a lot of the language from the traditional FAFSA had simply been cut and pasted into this somewhat newer, form that was supposed to help people who, students who are incarcerated. So with this letter, which we shared with Unlock Higher Ed, there was I think there was about 10 to 12 recommendations that we recommended that the the Department of Ed reconsider, and then also other colleagues within Unlocking Higher Ed, the Education Trust, one of our colleagues who's on the steering committee, they also did an excellent letter to the Department of Education in response to this newer form. So that's one way that we are trying to help with advocacy is, you know, Vera has a lot of additional resources that a lot of other nonprofits, for example, may not have. But again, we're not trying to, you know, lead the conversation or, you know, be the first voice in the room. What we're trying to do is use those resources that we have to lift up some of this information and then share it. Oh, I see William joined. Yep, he was one of the authors of the Education Trust excellent letter, which he may want to speak about as well for that students who are incarcerated FAFSA application forms. So, but that was one of the things that we have done. And I was just talking with Kim before this meeting started. For those of you that haven't seen that letter, which Unlock Higher Ed and others had signed on to, I'll certainly share that with the group, and we're looking to put that on the website as well. So I'll stop there for a second. I know, Kim, you had mentioned my colleague Jay speaking as well. So let me stop there so that I'm not talking nonstop, but that's just a little bit of an overview of some of the things that Vera does in addition to technical assistance. I know I have a colleague who does technical assistance for Sheila's site and you know, her state and the work that she does as well. But we're here to kind of support as opposed to lead, you know, lifting up the voices to be the first people in the room talking rather than us necessarily. So I'll pass it on to you, my brother Jay.
Well, thank you, Dr. Wheeler. And I think that we probably are just going to maybe pivot to, you know, really, you know, talk about, you know, we're here for so many different reasons, but everybody here and others who are not here and, you know, others who, you know, doing the work around the country, we had a real big collective victory of getting Pell Grants reinstated for all. And, you know, but without that, it's a lot of different layers and other things that system impacted. Students need both inside and outside of prison. And what we've been working on as a steering committee is trying to get people to, you know, see where they may be best fit at with some of the initiatives that we have agreed to take on as a collective force. And Kim, I don't know if you want to, you know, bring some of those things that was voted on or what we're going to do and try to figure out some of our leaders from different places around the country.
Yeah, that would be great. It's a perfect segue to perhaps the biggest
Have any
thing.
interest in serving on any of those committees and what that can look like?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jay. This is probably one of the biggest things. I mean, obviously this work does not happen in a vacuum, and we need and want everyone to be included in this. And so we've, as a subcommittee, as a steering committee, we've created several subcommittees that are going to be looking for people to join, again, to help us with the heavy lift. And so we've broken it down into a couple of different categories. One is, and these are on the website, although we don't have the finalized description of each one of the committees yet. We'll have that before our next meeting, but we're looking for individuals that want to work on the larger Pell Restoration Subcommittee and what that looks like. And, you know, working with Dr. Wheeler, certainly working with Ed Trust, certainly working and keeping everyone up to date on things that are happening. As people know, things happen both quickly and also slowly. But we also want to make sure that we're always keeping that information to the forefront of everybody. So we have the Pell Restoration Subcommittee. We also have what we've talked about as a federal policy subcommittee and federal advocacy. And I think that what's going to happen with that is that's going to be supporting policy work that directly relates to other issues within higher education and prison. And so there's an opportunity for people who like arguing with federal legislators, but then there's also the state level. And so this would be state work. So for instance, let's just pick on Jonathan because I know he's in Florida. So Jonathan, if there was work that we were going to be doing in Florida around Pell, around working with corrections, around working with universities and departments of higher education, we want to be able to know who's on the ground that we can support that work. We can support leaders that are on the ground there. And if there's movement there that, we can be a resource for the leaders and the advocates that are on individual states. Where we were doing Ban the Box, we kind of broke it out regionally, and we're not going to be doing that this time because this is a national issue, and we want to make sure that we are identifying leaders on the ground in all states that we can work with and that we can support. And so state-based advocacy is really broad, but again, if you want to work in your state, then we want to work with you. We want to make sure that this is as seamless as possible, although we know that there will be hiccups, but also to get as many of our brothers and sisters engaged on the inside. So then there's also media and messaging. And these are where we're going to be looking for interns who have strong social media skills to also help us draft press releases when we need to respond to things, good, bad, or indifferent. But we also want to send out and highlight work through social media campaigns around successes and around efforts that are going on in the individual states. So that's really, that's a much more interactive and much more could be done by interns. But again, if you have a social media strength and skill, we would love that. And then we have our events. And so, and actually I'm going to ask Harry and William to talk about this one. So we were just in DC for both STEM Ops and for Unlock Higher Ed. And I think that the DC, so this would be where we would be coordinating Hill visits, or if we were going to turn out in Virginia, let's say, to pick on our Virginia friends, if we were going to show up somewhere and rally around an issue, if you had pictures from an event, we would be able to share them through our social media. But we are also working on coordinating other events throughout the year. And opportunities, to bring advocates and leaders together to push for change. And like I said, that could be any kind of event. It's also conferences. So we have the Rise Up conference, for instance, coming up in September, and we're going to get more. Thank you, Sarah. We're going to get more information about Rise Up on our website as well, with links to registration, because that was a phenomenal conference last year. It will be even more so this year. And I think I hit all of them. Dr. Wheeler, did I miss one? Media, events, state, local, and fed.
I think you hit on them all, my friend. I believe so.
Woohoo. So I am going to stop for 1 second, and I'm going to ask Harry and William to talk about DC, because they were both there for those 2 days. Harry, why don't you give us your first thoughts about the event in DC?
Yeah, that was really great. It was a couple weeks ago. Me and one of the other interns at P2P set up like a dozen or so meetings between members of P2P, both people that are in like leadership positions for the organization and people that are former students who went through the course, to meet with the offices of a variety of federal representatives, but both senators and House of Representatives legislators. And it was sort of to touch base with all these different, policy, some of them leaders, I suppose, some, not all leaders. But it was a chance for us to sort of pair the advocates with the people actually legislating on the topic and make contact with the offices. It was really great. It was a chance actually just for everyone to meet in person. It was a guy got to meet like a dozen people that I've been emailing with for months in person for the first time, which was exciting. We all got to go around DC and see what it's like to engage in sort of federal advocacy. And I would say made some really great connections. I know at least with Corey Bush's office in Missouri, we're having follow-up meetings to try to work with their district office, and they're going to try to get us connected to various federal funds that exist that we, at least P2P might qualify for. So even just as like a first meeting with all these different offices, it was, I think, had, you know, potentially very, very impactful. And it was just very fun and exciting to get to meet everyone. And William, if you have any, you know, anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think I'd just be echoing you if I said anything different. We met with Kim, myself, Tanaj, Jacob, a few people from the team. We met with Trone's staff person, and it was real helpful to hear. Like the whole meeting started with you guys are preaching to the choir. We're on board with all things higher education, and I think that was good to hear. To meet with an ally when so often you're meeting with folks and you're having to convince them that it'll save them money to actually treat people like people. But yeah, a great day, a beautiful day on the Hill. Always love working arm in arm with Kim, and I echo everything that Harry just mentioned.
Thank you so much. I think that it was a great experience for people who had never been to the Hill, but also to be able to share your story, but also talk about why the issue is so important and why they need to care. And so I got to watch some folks who had never spoken outside of their normal comfort zone, and to hear them engage with legislative staff. I'm sorry, I'm a policy wonk. I love watching that kind of stuff. I love watching those aha kind of things. It's second best only to arguing with elected officials. Not gonna lie. So yeah, it was good. And so those are the kind of things that we're going to be doing. But I think too that it was, now that things are starting to open up and more states are looking at doing things, we have the opportunity to do more events. And so we will be looking at hosting some of those and pulling those together. We've got some other webinars and Facebook Live events that we're working on that we'll be sharing with everybody. And we'd love to be able to promote the things that you're doing, which is why, again, you know, we're looking for volunteers to help us with the media and messaging in the event subcommittee, but you can also just send us any of the information that you have directly to Harry or I, and we will make sure that it gets sent out to the listserv, but also that it's highlighted on our on the Unlock Higher Ed website. So to that end, the big push for today is really about getting people to think about what subcommittee that they would like to be involved in, help us spread the work, help us spread the word about what Unlock Higher Ed is doing, so that we can actually have a really strong Unlock Higher Ed coalition, and that we're highlighting all of the amazing work that people are doing across the country and how we can support each other. Because let's be real, they're not making pathways for us. We're having to make our own. And, you know, we're stronger when we work together. Dr. Wheeler, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on about the subcommittees?
I think you actually covered everything, my friend. I know that Sarah, no, not Sarah, sorry, someone said that Jessica, you'd mentioned that the media social messaging subcommittee had already met. I'm personally not sure of when the subcommittees have already met. So if is there anything, Jessica, maybe if it's okay to kind of put you on the spot, like how did that first subcommittee go, and what were some of your kind of like takeaways thus far with that? That might help other people that are on the call to kind of learn a little bit how those subcommittees are going so far.
No problem. So we only met once, and I don't know if all of us had expected to be there, but we showed up and there were about 5 of us. And one of the members on the call is extremely tech savvy. That's Mickey Stain out of Indiana. And so he just kind of delved into all of Unlock Higher Ed's socials and websites to see what he could see as far as most recent postings, frequency of postings, and kind of, we assumed we were kind of there to address the needs of how we could better serve in media and communications for Unlock Higher Ed. So we felt like we had a better understanding of where things were now, but we're looking forward to some direction as far as what we need to get in place or start putting together as far as content creation and things like that.
Wonderful. I know that one of the things that we're going to be doing is on the Unlock Higher Ed website is we will have those meetings and the links to those meetings up on the site so that people will know when they're calendared and how they can join them. And so, you know, keep an eye on that as well. I know that there are a couple of subcommittees met or tried to meet. And so I think I'm going to work with that. And making sure that we get that information up and running. Believe it or not, folks, that was my agenda for today. So unless Jay or Dr. Wheeler have anything else, or if you have any announcements that you would like to share with us that we could put out, I'd like to give you back, you know, some of your time in this day, since it's a beautiful day, at least here in Baltimore. I don't know where, I hope it's beautiful wherever you are. But I'd like to be able to share any opportunities you have, any upcoming events that you'd like us to be aware of. And certainly Jay and Dr. Wheeler, if I've missed anything that I should have covered, I've only had one cup of coffee today.
Could you share before we go further, can you share again what categories of the different groups that, what are different categories of volunteers?
Are you talking about the committees?
Yeah, the committees.
Oh, yes, we have the Pell Restoration Subcommittee. We have the Federal Policy and Advocacy, State Policy and Advocacy, Media and Messaging and Events.
Yeah, she just posted it inside the chat. So if anybody
thank you.
A copy and paste inside there, Dr. Wheeler put it inside there.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Does anybody have any exciting news about any of the programs anywhere around the country that they wish to share? I guess not.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Happy to always give back parts of time, part of your day. And we will meet again the last Monday of June. This was the May meeting, but we will be sending out information. Oh, sorry, William, your hand is raised.
I didn't know if Jay was talking about like HEP programs or news, anything like that. But,
any news
that you want us to share
inside the field is, you know, this is the perfect time to take the floor and share with everybody, educate us all.
Yeah, for sure. So Goucher has Goucher's Prison Education Partnership. They had the first 4 graduates of the program since it was launched in 2013 graduate since our last meeting. I had an opportunity to actually go back into the prison I was released from and attending that program and speak to those men. Really excited about the work they're doing, and yeah, just to see that program continuing to grow and others like it. So those 4 men received bachelors. 2 of those men have life sentences, and I think it's really phenomenal how they're trying to position those men to become TAs and educators. Yeah, it just shows that everyone should have access.
William, I got a question for you, a follow-up with Goucher program, and thanks for sharing that news. I know that they were in search for a new executive director or program director to run the whole thing.
Yep.
And they were in particular trying to focus on a formerly incarcerated person.
Yep.
Have they made any announcements with that?
Yes, so they did select an executive director. I'm sad to announce that 2 who are system impacted and women of color, they both passed on it, although they were in the finalist category. They passed on opportunities for other reasons, respectfully, and essentially it fell into the lap of the person who was the interim ED, who is not system impacted, nor a woman of color, unfortunately. So it had got down to, there were 3 system impacted people out of the 4. So there were 4 finalists. 3 were system impacted, 2 were women, both were women of color. And of course we know George was the individual, was the man of color, and then it was the woman who was the interim. So, yeah.
Was one of the things that I'm seeing everywhere? Was it hard to find somebody that was geographically located near the program?
Yes, and even one of the women who was system impacted was offered. So the school offered to buy her or pay for her housing if she took the job and relocated, pay for her relocation, and she still turned it down.
Oof.
Yeah, well, it's definitely very difficult when you're talking about community ties, family ties,
and the children. Yeah, she mentioned the children, uprooting the children.
Well, the good thing is because Pell is going to be back for all, as we just try to do something about incarceration, but until we can just eliminate it for mass and put it back into those pre-1980 numbers, in years to come, there'll be more system impacted people located, and want these jobs and where the universities are located at. So, but thanks for sharing.
Well, and I think, Jay, to your point, I think that that's a great opportunity for us too, is when we hear about these jobs, whether they're remote or whether they're hybrid or whether, they're Baltimore based or Maryland based or wherever they are, if we can, continue to just keep abreast of those and share those out so that we can make sure that systems impacted people, know about the opportunities and are supported in it. Thank you so much, Dr. Wheeler. We will absolutely put those up and we will send them out to the listserv because I know that the Alliance for Higher Education in Prison was looking for a new executive director. And that search they were using a search firm, but again, trying to find someone that was in Denver. And if they weren't going to be in Denver, trying to find somebody that could manage a remote staff and that was systems impacted. It was, and still is, they haven't named the new executive director yet, but it is still a huge process. And again, I don't know where that job was posted. Okay, thank you. It won't, it is just another process where we just have to keep fighting to support and to engage and to make sure that systems impacted individuals are in fact leading this work as we should be, and that we know about these opportunities. So if you know of something, please send it. And if there is an announcement about a new director or, a new program person that is systems impacted, we want to be able to celebrate those announcements as well. Any achievements, any accomplishments are worthy of us sharing. And so again, there's for the media and messaging team and and becoming dynamic. Yes, Odell, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so so currently I'm working with 4 HBCUs in Arkansas. There are 4 here, and 2 are now in the process of applying for the Pell participation, but 2 already have received that. And one of the challenges that the leadership at those particular colleges are really concerned about is the mental health implications for people that are coming out of jail, particularly those that have been there longer than others. Well, it doesn't matter the length of time, but they're seeing a lot of people checking out that are in the program, right? And so we're now going to conduct some research about how can we come up with interventions to support those individuals that are coming out of prison, and those that are mostly those. The problem is more lies in the ones that are being released, that are coming to campus, and those that live in a community that has a criminal history. In the policies that the committees, the Pell Grant restoration, the federal policy, the state policy, and the messaging, how is mental health integrated in that? Because I'm here to share that it is a problem. Oftentimes, we talk about criminal justice reform and reentry, but at minimal, we hear a lot about mental health practices that are needed and used to help people sustain and hold retention in these educational programs. So I was curious about that. And also we just received another grant just recently. It was a R01 NIH grant to provide universal base income to individuals over Black males over 45. That's like $500 stipend a month for the next year once they are released, to really test the efficacy if this is going to help them stabilize themselves in the community after release. That program, actually, that grant starts in September. But we already know that mental health is going to be one of our greatest challenges, even in that. So how much emphasis is placed in the mental health delivery with people that are in higher ed?
So if I could, I'm not credentialed as a therapist or a psychologist or anything of that nature. However, I'm really curious to wonder why there's an idea that someone who is incarcerated is dealing with a different set of mental challenges versus someone who comes up in the same community where there is this school to prison pipeline and untreated mental health to begin with in the community. Like, what would be the measurable difference between someone who served, like in my case, 21 years in prison? What would be the difference between that person and someone who spent 21 years in a disadvantaged war zone in many of the communities that folks are coming from, Black and brown folks? I'm just interested to know.
Yeah, so this is collective. This is a lifespan. We're not talking about just because you went to jail or prison, now you know you got mental health issues. We're talking about the whole collective. I mean, we're talking about really the undealt mental health issues coming out of those communities that you just described before that possibly led to that incarceration experience. Incarceration is just one part of that journey, but we're going back over the lifespan and trying to deal with that unaddressed trauma and also lived experiences prior to crime, incarceration, and release.
Thank you. We have not talked about mental health. Judith, go ahead. Your hand is up.
Yeah, as a mental health professional, I can tell you that it's not the fact that you have a specific trauma going to prison or being in prison and coming out. It's the fact that, you know, there's a culmination of traumas that lead there, but it's identified. Prison itself is identified as a crisis, is identified as a post-traumatic situation that it's easily able for clients or for individuals to be targeted for mental health treatment, because not everybody that goes to prison has had trauma in the past, even though many do. But the imprisonment itself provides a traumatic experience, and therefore it's identified as a way of leading those individuals that come out of prison needing the mental health treatment itself. So it's an easy identifier of a traumatic experience that otherwise some people may not express, talk about, or even identify with mental health issues.
We have not, as a steering committee, looked at the intersection with mental health, Odell, and I would be the worst person to have that conversation with right now, because again, it's something that if you would like to, you know, send us something that could go to the steering committee, your concerns or how you think it could be integrated in the work of Unlock Higher Ed, or if it's something that we need to be thinking about. For instance, we think about language and person first language in everything that we do. That would be my suggestion, unless Jay or Dr. Wheeler have another thought about that.
No, I just glad that you know, we had a small group today, so it allowed us to even, you know, explore some of these different areas that we haven't considered when we come together as a collective force. I think everybody said, you know, gave out some really good information. I don't know who that was. That's a clinician or inside that field. Thanks for being here and allowing us to have somebody who's been trained inside that area. And also, I just want to touch on what William was referring to and understanding the definition that you had explained to us. But what he's referring to, that you know, inside the research field inside of itself, right? There are certain neighborhoods. The neighborhood itself is equivalent to what everything that we spend in prison. So for some of us who have inherited the prison condition as a part of our family tree, you know, grandfather went in, father went in, I went in, nephews, everybody, just where we going. When we actually got to prison, we were okay in prison because the prison was identical into the very neighborhood that we was growing up in. So what he's talking about a section that just hasn't been touched inside the field that probably needs to be studied. But thank everybody for showing up, and that was a really fruitful conversation, and I'm glad to have all you guys as colleagues inside this field.
Very much so. And Odell would love to know more about the research, and, you know, how what it proves or what it disproves, or, you know, particularly with the funding that you've gotten to look at the universal income. And that would be, again, this field is open to all kinds of research opportunities and possibilities. And so we want to make sure that, you know, we are advancing the issue and advancing the field as much as we can. And so having such a diverse coalition, but also having people bring ideas that we should be thinking about and exploring is always exciting. And so if you have some thoughts on that, we would absolutely love for you to be able to share that with us. That might even be the subject of an upcoming meeting, to be perfectly honest, because it is something that I think we need to look at.
Yeah, definitely the universal based income is the NIH and the government's never given away money like this. We got to give away over $2 million and $500 to more than 600 formerly incarcerated people that are getting out. And we're going to be doing this for over a year. So this is the first time NIH has ever given money away to test efficacy. So there's new leadership in the NIH this year, and I'm not going to commend them for stepping up to the plate and saying that this population doesn't, their lives matter, and so they're demonstrating that by this amount of investment. And once we show, what the holes are, come up with interventions and how we can help support people that are getting out financially in a more sustainable way. Because I can imagine this will be going toward housing and a lot of other things. I think that we'll see more of these kind of grants being submitted. So that's kind of what we're excited about, is that, okay, once we prove it, that it does work and it does help, then we can see even more money and more people that can be supported, and also that would be a part of helping reduce mass incarceration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be great. We'd love to learn more. I'm also interested in your work with the HBCUs, because one of the things that we have done in Maryland, we actually passed legislation with the HBCUs, is, how do we make sure that HBCUs are more actively involved in Maryland, and how we make those connections for students, to get students into HBCU pipelines and supported. And so there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for some crossover work that we'd love to be able to talk to you, moving forward.
Definitely.
I'd love to hear about that.
Yes.
All right. Any other announcements? Or I'm looking real quick to see if anybody else. No, nobody has a hand up. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the link. We will be sending that out. Again, we will meet at the end of the month. I do not know the exact date because I don't have my calendar up, but it's the last Monday of the month at 1 o'clock, and we'll be sending out notices again. So I thank everybody for joining us today, and I'll give you back 1 minute of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.